So are you happy with the development of the cooperation in trade and investment sectors in Indonesia in general?
Well, happy, yes, because our relations are very good. Have we reached our target? Not yet. Clearly, we have a good trade with Indonesia.
The relationship considerably grew after the Indonesia-EU Partnership and Cooperation Agreement came into effect in 2014. In July 2016, the two entities launched negotiations for the Indonesia-EU Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which was expected to boost trade and investment. It would also promote a sustainable relationship in the economic, social, and environmental sectors. However, there are some problems or challenges that often hamper the efforts. For instance, the largest Indonesian export commodity to the EU, namely palm oil and its derivative products, have lately become a hot issue that besets the two entities. I'm Purwani Diaprabandari, and you're watching Tempo Talks. Today, we have here with us one of the most competent persons to explain the twists and turns in the relationship between the European Union and Indonesia. He has worked hard to improve the cooperation between the two entities. He is His Excellency Vincent Piket, the European Union Ambassador to Indonesia and Brunei Darussalam. But Vincent, it's a great honor to have you here at Tempo Talks.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation.
Yeah, I heard that you visited West Nusa Tenggara in June, right? So yes. To explore the possibility or opportunities for trade and investment, right? Yes. So what's the result of that visit?
You're very well informed. I was there last week and with my team. And first time I visited the province, so It was really a discovery and very, very interesting observations that the province has a lot to offer, has evident strengths in agriculture and in also in tourism, wants to industrialize gradually, which is great. And what I was very much struck by was the fact that there are many micro enterprises that are doing very well. I met a coffee farmer who had increased his employment in the firm from 10 to 40. I met a cosmetics producer who produced nature-based sunblock and very good. The question that they have is how to expand, how to grow, how to reach the large markets of Indonesia, of course, in Surabaya, in Medan, in Jakarta, and beyond, to Singapore, to other Asian destinations and Europe. And so that's a bit the challenge I found that they are facing, and it's something that we can certainly work on with the European
How's the response or the readiness of the business people there, or even in probably the provincial government or the government in there?
Very keen. I can tell you that in a very simple word, very keen. The companies want to connect with European companies and to boost their business. And also from the side of the government, I think it was a very strong and support and interest. Government is working hard on human resources. They say it's quite remarkable. They're sending 1,000 students from the province for study abroad every year, which is massive.
With a scholarship?
With a scholarship, and students all come back, or virtually all come back after the scholarship to strengthen the human resources basis of the province, and that is, I think, very necessary, especially if you want to go up the value chain.
So are you happy with the development of the cooperation in trade and investment sectors in Indonesia in general?
Well, happy, yes, because our relations are very good. Have we reached our target? Not yet. We have a good trade with Indonesia. It went down during COVID a little bit, but on the whole, it's been around 25 billion euros with a surplus for Indonesia. Which is good, but not yet where we could be if we have a more open and stronger basis based trade agreement, and that's what the negotiation of the CEPA, the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, is about.
Yeah.
So that is still a little bit something we need to go for.
Okay. So do you think that the EU and Indonesia could still further develop the cooperation in trade investment? And if yes, in what sectors? They have a big potential for that.
Yeah, definitely. This is a country with 270 million inhabitants at present. It's growing fast. Last year, 5%, and the forecast government and the World Bank is more or less the same for this year and the next. Some uncertainties on the rise, like for us, due to the security crisis in the world, leading to food instability and energy price rises and inflation. So that's an uncertainty. But on the whole, this is a very strong market, strong economy. And if you look at it in the ASEAN context, then Indonesia is for us in numbers not yet where it ought to be. It's the fourth trade partner within ASEAN, also in investment. It's like that. So we can still do a lot better. Which sectors?
I heard that like 1,100 European corporations are present in Indonesia, right?
Which is a strong basis. It's a critical mass. Some very large companies, but also many medium-sized and small enterprises that really bring value and know-how to your economy. And but then again, we can do better in manufacturing. I think that European firms are beginning to discover more and more the domestic market of Indonesia, and also Indonesia as a hub for exporting to the region, ASEAN and beyond. So that is something that we can promote with the CEPA agreement.
And many business people, the standards set by the EU for imports, including from Indonesia, of course, especially for forest or plantation-based commodities. So it has even created tension between Indonesia and the EU on the issue of palm oil for some time, right? So what does the EU do to make all partners comply with those regulations? Or is there any negotiation from the other parts to get easier standards for the import?
Well, first of all countries regulate their markets and set standards, and we do it, Indonesia does it, and those people exporting, companies exporting to the country will have to comply. It's got to be compatible with the WTO, the World Trade Organization, evidently. But we do regulate, and Indonesia does it. Secondly, yes, the EU is greening its economy. We have got to do that. If we don't, then we will not reach our goal of being carbon neutral, net zero on carbon emissions by 2050, 50. That's linked to our COP climate negotiations agenda. So we are greening our economy, and that means higher standards. Now, companies, of course, will have to adjust, and my sense is, after speaking to a lot of company interlocutors in the palm oil sector, is that the large majority of companies can meet those standards, and they want to, because they know that this is where Europe is heading. This is where the big markets, other markets, will be heading around the globe. It's a global pattern. Europe is maybe the first to start this prominently, but others are coming. And also, if you look at it from the Indonesian perspective, Indonesia has its obligations to under the Paris Accord and so on, has its targets for 2030 and beyond. So Indonesia, the government and the companies will have to reflect on how do you do that. And one way of doing that is to make sure that you are sustainable, that you avoid deforestation, and that you have a sustainable use of the land in general. And I'm happy to say that we see a lot of positive developments on that score in Indonesia on reducing deforestation and towards sustainability. So I think that while you were right saying that we were in a dispute mode, I do think for the medium to long term we will be totally in a cooperation mode.
But Indonesia has always said that EU imposed the discrimination to Indonesian palm oil.
That's we dispute that, and
still in the process.
and we have this matter before the WTO panel. But let me stress one thing: if you look at our latest proposals from the EU, whether it's for deforestation-free products, whether it's for the carbon content of products. Our rules apply to everybody inside the European Union and outside. It's a level playing field, and so there is, in that sense, absolutely no discrimination in what we are doing and will be doing.
Okay. And the EU has the Arise Plus Indonesia program to help boost Indonesian products' competitiveness, and also KAMI, an approach to reach palm oil sustainability, right? How do they progress so far?
Well, these are two examples of very hands-on, practical programs that we finance here in Indonesia. The Arise Plus program, for instance, has helped local products to reinvent themselves. There's the very special salt, Amat salt in Bali. 10 years ago, it was the production was about to disappear, but with a little bit of know-how, with branding, with the development of a so-called geographic indication for Amat salt, the business is now flourishing, and this is something that is marketable in Indonesia and also abroad.
It sell well in Europe?
Well, it's a niche brand, so but it fetches a good price, and certainly there is a very positive growth for this particular salt. And the other program you mentioned for palm oil, it's very hands-on too. It really goes down into the regions, the provinces of Indonesia where the palm oil comes from, and it helps the local palm oil organizations and the local government and the farmers to bring measurable sustainability to their plantations. So we expect that this will be producing very good results before too long.
Although the cooperation has been close, the Indonesia-EU Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement that was launched in 2016 still failed to find a mutual agreement until now, right? So what do you think have caused this situation?
Well, it's work in progress, and we started 2016. You're right; it's now 6 years later.
Yeah.
So
it's already like 11 meetings.
We have had 11 big rounds of negotiation. Now, why does this negotiation take some time? It's because it is a very broad agreement. It's not just about some tariffs here and there, products and so on. No, this is about a whole set of other aspects and provisions that are vital for a modern economy. Talking about rules, about standards, about rules for competition, for state aid, and things like that. So it's a different agreement than Indonesia has negotiated with anybody else. We're quite proud of that, but it means that it does take some time, because in a way you could say that the negotiations require some transition also in the governmental policy for the economy, about how you manage subsidies, how you manage the place of state-owned enterprises in a competitive economy. These are issues that we have in Europe. We've got them as well, and we've come to terms with that in one way or another. And Indonesia has the same questions. This morning there was a presentation by the World Bank, the economic outlook for this year and the next, and they also mentioned that aspect of those transitions that are needed. So it's a challenging negotiation, very detailed. We are quite confident that we will pull it through for two reasons. A, the general partnership, the strong partnership between us and Indonesia, which we want to nurture and take forward. B, the economic benefits of the...
So what's the benefits?
and that's clear. We have the studies, the government has them, that show very clearly that the agreement will bring Indonesia extra GDP year after year.
How many percent?
It's about 5 billion euros extra GDP per year from the year 2030 or thereabouts. So that is massive, because that means investment, that means jobs, that means know-how, innovation. That means more exports by Indonesia to the EU. We've calculated 17% extra exports year after year. So that's huge. So we believe that will pull it over the line.
So how many percent the materials have been agreed so far?
Pardon?
How many percent the material of the negotiation have been agreed so far?
That's very hard to say, but we are certainly.
So we can see that it's still a long way.
No, but I understand. But we are certainly beyond the halfway point. But as you know, in each negotiation, some of the more difficult topics they wait until the end, so that you. At that moment, you strike the deal.
What's the most difficult topic?
That I'm not going to enter into that, but let me just say we are confident that we will bring this to a good conclusion.
We are talking about green cooperation agenda. You already mentioned too. So the EU aim to support the Indonesia to realization the sustainable development goals and promoting a carbon neutral circular society, right? And can you explain the detail of that kind of program, although that you already mentioned some of it?
Indeed, palm oil is one. We have also got programs for working with the local and the provincial governments. We have between Berlin and Jakarta. We finance a partnership, a smart city partnership. So there is funding available for transition at company level. So that's quite.
You mean Indonesian companies?
Yes. So that's quite substantial. The bottom line is that this is driven, of course, by government policy. We all have the targets that the UN bodies agreements like the Paris Accord impose of us. Everybody has subscribed to that, including Indonesia. So that is the driver, government agenda, which is then translated on the ground. And very important is the role of industry, that industry feels this is where my government, my country is heading. It's got to be carbon neutral.
So it's green industry there.
Yes, it's through investment and private sector mostly investment, and that's where I hope that the European firms can contribute a lot. We've been in that business for about 4 decades now, so there's a tremendous amount of know-how in our companies about raising the sustainability and cutting CO2 and all of that. Our firms, if you ask them, particularly the larger ones, they will say we have ourselves a carbon neutral target, a requirement for ourselves by the year 2050. So when they invest here in Indonesia, they have to do exactly the same. Otherwise it would be inconsistent with their company policy, and it would be the shareholders wouldn't be happy.
Okay, so it's like the European companies who invest here,
Absolutely.
They implement the green industry or even doing the green transition.
Yes. I met one firm just last week who was visiting us here, and they want to run their investment here on with solar power, and so they're willing to make that investment, or they have to do it for their own company policy's sake. But right now they're a little bit stuck because the renewable energy bill is still pending in Parliament, and there's still a question over of tariffs, renewable versus fossil electricity, and a cap. And there's a cap on solar panels from the side of the PLN. So that is a regulatory issue that I hope will be resolved soon, so that such an investment can go ahead.
Okay, so right now waiting for the Indonesian government to regulate it quite well. Besides economy, what are the sectors you are prioritizing to be developed further during your assignment? I don't know, it's like a year more or probably all of it?
Too short.
Too short.
We are very keen on a digital economy. Here the digital sector is extremely dynamic. Same for Europe, and we are very proud. I'm proud that we can say that we have got the most modern regulatory framework for a sustainable digital economy in Europe.
What kind of?
We have just recently adopted 2 big new laws. One, to regulate the market, to define how we should treat competition. You know, some of the firms in the digital economy are very, very big and powerful.
Right.
That's okay as such, but of course there's got to be place also for small new startups, and that's what our law, one of the laws has done. The other law is mostly about conduct of companies and or protection of consumers, particularly as regards to data and privacy. And,
that's really important.
It is very important. It's a big topic everywhere,
including in Indonesia.
Including in Indonesia. We've done that now, and I've been meeting the government and especially the communication and information minister about this. That this is something we could offer to you, and it has very practical results for citizens. Just yesterday, the EU agreed a code of conduct with TikTok. Not all countries like TikTok, but for us the key thing is the protection of users, of consumers, on a fair basis and with respect to privacy in particular, and that is what we just agreed.
So how does it work in Europe right now? I mean, it's like this regulation is already implemented, right? So
Yes.
how does it work so far?
Well, it works particularly, of course, by very good and close dialogue with the providers, the big ones and the smaller ones, to find a set of rules that, on the one hand, allow competition and innovation to happen. That's very important. But at the same time, there are also public interests and consumer interests. So that's how it works. And we do the very good thing of the EU, of course, is we have 27 member states. We have 450 million inhabitants. So we are a big market. And it means that we have some leverage, some negotiation position towards the firms. But it's also of interest to the firms because we are so big, and what they do for the EU is worth investing in and maybe used also as models elsewhere.
No resistance from the digital companies there?
Oh, yeah, cooperation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the cooperation in education and human resource improvement with Indonesia?
Very good question, and it's something that is very close to my heart. We have excellent cooperation with the government on exchanges, higher education exchanges. The EU and the EU member states in Indonesia, we provide about 1,200 scholarships per year.
Wow, that's Erasmus Mundus?
Through Erasmus Mundus for the EU, but member states have their individual programs. Okay. So that's quite good. The very positive development of last year is that the government, the Ministry of Education and Culture, has set up its own scholarship program for Indonesian students, more or less to go hand in hand with our programs. And last year, the government financed 500 scholarships for Europe, studies in Europe.
Okay.
And that is great. We hope this will increase. Education cooperation is endless because the interest is so high, and wherever I go, I meet so many people asking me about possibilities, and I notice, however, that many students find their own way with funding from other sources, individually on their own strengths, and Europe, the European higher education sector is attractive because it's good quality. Right. And in the large majority of cases, the tuition fees are very, very low, very, very moderate, thanks to the fact that we have in most countries, a state-funded education system. So the tuition is low and the quality being high. There's a very good case to be made for studying in Europe.
Does you really consider about the equality in this program, or the inclusivity of this program for the scholarship? It's like, I mean, probably like student from Java, they got a lot of person in this scholarship program. Or you really consider it's like, okay, we have to take some student from Papua, from other parts of Indonesia.
We try to. We try to, of course. We are a little bit dependent on the proposals we are getting, but we try to make sure that there is a geographic spread. We try to make sure that there is balance, women and men, that there is space also for persons with a physical handicap and so on. All of these things are factored into the selection process, and so certainly a point of attention for us.
Selamat datang di Politeknik Tempo, kampus vokasi yang siap menjadi lahan penyemayan ide dan gagasan baru untuk menjawab tantangan di era 4.0. Fasilitas belajar ditunjang sistem Smart Campus dengan pembelajaran serba digital membuat perkuliahan lebih mudah dan menyenangkan.
Kampus terintegrasi dengan industri media dan komunitas startup sehingga mahasiswa langsung berinteraksi dengan dunia kerja dan dunia usaha sejak dini. 3 program studi unggulan Politeknik Tempo: Desain Media, Produksi Media, Manajemen Pemasaran Internasional.
Sistem blended learning dan kampus merdeka dengan materi belajar 60% praktik menjadikan lulusan Politeknik Tempo sebagai sarjana terapan siap kerja.
Sebagai penyelenggara pendidikan, Tempo Media Group berpengalaman selama 50 tahun di industri media dengan reputasi tinggi. Mari raih masa depan gemilang bersama Politeknik Tempo.
And to improve the economic and people-to-people relationship, Indonesia wants its citizens to be exempted from Schengen visa when traveling to EU countries. So what's the prospect of that?
I know this is a question that comes up, and I know that applying for a visa can be a hassle.
Yeah.
I do it myself, so I know what I'm talking about. For now, we will have the visa requirements. There is no immediate plan to phase it out. But the good thing I wish to say is that this is a visa for the entire Schengen area. So once you got it, and you have the possibility of traveling throughout these 27 countries that are part of it. Secondly, it's a visa that is valid for up to 5 years. Depends on the traveler, but a bona fide traveler who has previously traveled in Europe can get a validity of that long. And lastly, it's for up to 180 days stay in the duration with. So on the whole, it is a very good visa. Insofar as visas are pleasant, it is definitely, this is one of the best visas one can get.
Okay. The EU and Indonesia also have agreed for mutual recognition of the COVID vaccine certificates, right? Has it impacted the traffic of the Indonesian and European people to visit each other?
It's too early to say, but travel is going up, and I did hear a sigh of relief when our new scheme was announced. So, and it does work with your smartphone. You go to the border check on landing in Europe. And that settles it, and the same for European travelers here. So we're very happy with that, and it's certainly something that will help the travel industry and the tourism industry.
Revive the tourism too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, in February, Russia invaded Ukraine, and the conflict is still going on till now, right? So what's the biggest impact of the conflict to European countries, especially in economy?
The biggest impact is, of course, for Ukraine itself, and with so many lives lost, thousands and thousands of civilians. You've seen the pictures, and destruction all around, livelihoods destroyed, the social and medical facilities bombed.
We sent a journalist there.
Yeah. Yes, and so that is first of all, one should say the impact on Ukraine itself. Secondly, for us, of course, we have in the EU more than 7 million Ukrainian refugees.
Right.
We've said our borders are open for you. If you have to flee, come to us. You're welcome. Poland, 4.5 million almost. Slovakia, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, massive numbers. The Polish example is more than 4 million. which is 10% of the Polish population.
Right.
So that is, imagine that on the Indonesian scale, what that 10% means. And so that is a major impact, very costly, but we are willing to bear that cost for the refugees, who can, by the way, find a job. Kids can go to school. There's medical facilities. The other big impact is economic. The disruption of the trade, and which has nothing to do with the sanctions, but it's a logical effect of war, of warfare. It destabilizes everything. We have inflation that has shot up 8% on a yearly basis in last month. So that is very, very high indeed. Our population is suffering. And our post-COVID recovery is
a difficult situation.
Yeah. So that's a factor. And lastly, energy.
Energy shortage,
over-reliance on Russian oil and gas. We knew it, but we never thought we would be in this situation.
It's really bad, the energy.
Of course. It's about 30% for the gas. Okay. Of our consumption comes from Russia. And over the past couple of weeks, Russia has been turning off the tap for successive countries, now 5 or 6 of them. So it just goes to show that Russia is willing to use the gas for political means, and basically it's arm twisting, economic arm twisting, and blackmail, which is very serious. And so our choice has been made. Our leaders cut this over-reliance. By the end of this year, no more oil imports. 90% of our oil imports should cease from Russia. And for gas, it will take a little bit longer. And
how does the EU right now fulfill the energy supply?
Well, purchasing on the international markets. For oil, it is compared to gas, relatively easy, because the market is very globalized and so on. And there is oil available through tankers and so on. For gas, it is more challenging, because gas is mostly transported at the moment in pipelines, and pipelines, of course, are fixed on land or in the sea. And so that's where the transition, the big change has to happen. We've been quite successful already in negotiating new deals for LNG from countries in the Mediterranean, from countries in the Gulf. And we will continue to look around where we can buy more. And the other thing is that this, of course, will accelerate our drive towards renewable energy. More solar, more wind, more hydrogen in our energy mix, and consuming less. That's also a lesson we will have to learn in practice.
It's already implemented about it?
It is, but we'll have to go faster than we thought we would.
Mm-hmm. Does it affect the relation between the EU and Indonesia?
Well, of course it does, in the sense that if you face instability and risk, of course you'll try and look and find the stable partnership, the good partnerships. And here, Indonesia is very, very prominent. Other countries in Asia are very prominent. So we'll certainly be engaging with Indonesia more strongly in these areas in particular.
Okay, so it's strong and close relationship and cooperation is really important.
Indeed.
Yeah. You know that you have been assigned to Jakarta for more than 2.5 years. It's quite long. So what are your most difficult challenge, and what's the best or most memorable experience so far?
most difficult challenge was the challenge that I shared with all Jakartans, with all Indonesians, and that's dealing with COVID in your private lives.
Right.
That was, of course, difficult, but we managed, and I'm very much struck by the strength, the resilience in Indonesian people, and keep at it, keep on smiling, and so the spirit was not of the Indonesian people was not hurt at all. Memorable experiences is probably related to my visits around the country, and fortunately I've been able to make a few, and
that's because of pandemic.
Yeah. But one of the most impressive visits was my visit to Bandar Aceh, and to see the area where the tsunami struck, and to visit the tsunami museum, and just to imagine what happened there, and to see how the city has re-emerged literally from this horrible disaster. So that was very impressive. Other impressive was also when I went to Sulawesi, North Sulawesi, visiting the fishing communities along the coast, and very impressive how these very small communities, 300-400, up to 1,000 people, cared for their environment and cared for maintaining the coral and the biodiversity in the seas in front of them. Because they know if they didn't care, they wouldn't have fish to catch before too long. They would have to go out further and further to meet their daily needs. And so that was very, very interesting and impressive visit as well.
You still have time, so if you want to do something, what do you want to do?
In terms of a visit?
In terms of your assignment in Jakarta.
Oh, well, I mentioned the digital, I think, and I'm very keen on that. I think we, Indonesia and EU can profit mutually for cooperation there. Push hard on education. That's another priority of mine. Also to bring our minds together. Education connects, and leads to understanding, and that is what we need. It
also boosts people-to-people connection.
Absolutely.
Right. Pak Vincent, thank you for the enlightening conversation, and thank you for your time, of course.
Thank you all the same.
Viewers, thank you for watching us, Tempo Talks. You can see or you can watch Tempo Talks next month with another interesting guest and another interesting topic. Good day.